Hello, I'm Andrea Goodman. Today's guest is coming to us from London. Barney Smith is the director of the British vocal ensemble VOCES8, considered to be one of the finest vocal ensembles in the world. It has taken off like wildfire here in the United States. They are proud to inspire people through music and share the joy of singing. Touring globally, the group performs an extensive repertory both in its a cappella concerts and in collaborations with leading orchestras, conductors, and soloists. Today, you'll find out the secret to their amazing sound and what it is about their repertoire that makes the group so appealing to audiences all over the world. Welcome, Barney.
Thank you very much.
It's so nice to see you. We have a little bit of a time difference across the pond here. It's later for you today, and you've just come back from a long rehearsal, so I really appreciate you joining us today.
No problem at all.
And those of us in the United States who are going to be watching this would love to know all about the group and your ideas behind the founding of it and what kind of sound you were after. And first, let me start off by saying that I was at your concert last year in February in a freezing cold night in the Northeast, but it was so well worth it. The place was packed and there was even no standing room, nothing available, a waiting list to get in. So you've obviously come across something so successful that people really would love to hear. So you had some ideas in the beginning in 2005 when you were founded about the sound that was in your ear, in your mind, what you wanted. Can you talk about those early years and perhaps any groups that may have influenced you?
Of course. I mean, we founded, as you said, in 2005. And I think to start with, it was all a bit of an accident, if I'm honest. We were in a youth choir together, the 8 founding members, and we just got a bit old for the choir. So my brother Paul and I decided that we set a group up that predominantly just came and had sleepovers at our parents' house, actually. And we got invited to a competition and ended up winning it in Italy. And that's how the group came to be. Before that, my brother was director of development for an orchestra. I was studying solo singing and going to go down that path. So it was all a bit of an accident, but we've been, of course, immersed in choral music for our whole lives. Paul and I were both choristers at Westminster Abbey here in London. And we're massive fans of many of the well-known a cappella groups. I mean, obviously, specifically from the UK, the King Singers, and also the Swingle Singers. Then the Real Group was another big influence on us and what we were doing, as well as some of the chamber choirs, people like the Tallis Scholars. Amazing group here in the UK called I Fagiolini. If you don't know them, you need to look them up. They're called the Little Beans, Italian for the little green beans. So loads of influences. And actually, if you look at the group's repertoire and also arrangements, and I think sound, actually, today, it's sort of a melting pot, I think, of all those different things. But I think above all else, there were 2 things that we wanted to achieve when we first set out. One of them was excellence in ensemble singing. And the other thing was, and still is, very much a commitment to our community. We are so grateful for the opportunities that we had when we were growing up. And of course, we were luckier than a lot of people to get choristerships. But that element of music, not just music, the wider creative arts in our upbringing, I think has had a massive influence, certainly on shaping the person I am today. Obviously, I'm a singer, but just my wider personality and what it is that I do, and how I hold myself on a daily basis across everything I do. I think music and the creative arts had such an important part in my development that we wanted to make sure that every child specifically was afforded that opportunity. And we all know, I'm sure people watching this podcast will know that the first thing to be chopped for funding, or the first thing to disappear off a curriculum at school if time is tight, is often music. So we wanted to be an important voice in that world, and so we set up a foundation as well. And so those were the 2 things that we wanted to achieve.
Great. Well, we'll get into the foundation a little bit later, but first, can you talk about these 8 singers, are they still with you? And if you have new ones, how do you select the singers? Do they come in and sing for a little bit and see if they match what you're doing, the sound that you make? And what is the criteria then that you're looking for? Obviously, you want to go for blend and all that stuff, but it can't be easy. Plus, in the beginning, did you have the professional world in mind, or just sort of developed that way?
All good questions. Right. So the first thing to say is I'm the only founder member left. So I'm not sure what that says about me. But, you know, we've been going 15 years. And Andrea, who sings first soprano in the group, has been with us also a very long time, 12 years. So she and I are kind of the really old guard. And now, I mean, changing singers is fascinating. I would say principally of those founder members, one of the reasons that we are where we are today is because everybody committed to it. You know, all of those 8 original singers were very, very talented singers. And if you look at where they are and what they're doing today, they're all pretty much to a man or woman, very, very successful in the world of solo singing, or conducting, or, you know, something like that. So a really talented group of people, and they all committed. You know, I remember there was a time where 3 of them were offered the opportunity to continue postgraduate studies right at the time that we were deciding whether or not we were going to really jump with VOCES8. And the fact that they jumped with VOCES8, I think we owe a lot to the success of the group today for those decisions early on. In terms of replacing singers, I mean, it's a huge deal. Of course, it's a very big decision. Something I've learned from replacing, I know we've maybe had 10 rounds of auditions now over the 15 years. And something I've learned is that it's incredible how a musician, how a singer, and how a personality can develop once they're offered the opportunity. It is amazing, I think, the amount of people who go by the wayside because they're not great at auditioning. And so sometimes as a group, we sit here and, you know, we go through an audition, which I'll talk about in a minute, and we wonder, you know, is this person actually going to be up to it? And always, on every occasion, the new person joining the group has always exceeded my expectation. Of course, my expectation can only ever be based on what I've seen in an audition. But I think that's a really interesting thing that should inform, I think, probably both people who take auditions, but also hold them. And it certainly has informed my opinion on both sides of the fence. And the audition process for us is a very long, drawn-out process. We, these days, tend to work on it's a 5-step process. Step number 1 is I set a couple of solo songs. Well, step number 1 is that we shortlist. So invariably, we get about 500 applications for one position in the group. So it's very competitive. And everybody has to submit both their resume and also a couple of sound clips. So we sit down and listen to all of those and shortlist. And normally, I mean, we will try to see everybody who we think either we're interested in from hearing them or reading about them. We'll try and see all of them in a first round. And that's often as many as 100 singers. And
so you decide days for this, that you say you're hearing for a certain spot, and then you do an open call somehow that you let people know and they show up that day?
Yeah, well, we put an advert out and it says, this is the job. If you want to apply, send your resume and 2 sound clips. And anyone who does gets considered, and then we have audition days. So in the first round of audition, they'll be set normally a Baroque aria and a solo song that's open to interpretation along the more jazzy side of the repertoire. So for the most recent soprano auditions, I set Piangere from Handel's Julius Cesare, and I also set Summertime. So it gives them the opportunity to come in the room and just sing to us across a couple of different styles. And after that, we can immediately, when someone sings solo to you, you of course meet the person who's walked in the room, but you of course hear their voice, but you also begin to meet their musical personality. And actually, that's almost what I'm most interested in, is who they are as a musician. So from that, we will shortlist, and that shortlist might come down to 30 people. And those 30 people will be sent 5 or 6 excerpts of the group's music. And then across 2 days, we'll invite them in, and they will just take they would just walk in the room, take the spot of the person who's vacating the group, and sing through those 5 excerpts with us. And immediately you'll know whether or not that person could do the job. Almost before they've even sung the first note, there's a vibe and there's a feeling when they take the first breath.
So is there any sight reading involved? This is a kind of a silly question, but do they need to be able to sight read just incredibly well because of the demands of your rehearsals?
Well, strictly speaking, no. I would say, and the sight reading is a really interesting thing, and people always laud British choirs and choral singers with being able to sight read. It's a difficult thing, because when you can sight read, you get to an acceptable standard very quickly, but we're looking for a lot more than acceptable. On the other hand, being able to get to a good standard without too much brain process then means that you can stretch your legs and achieve more in a more timely fashion. And ultimately, I think people who are good sight readers, because less of their mind is being taken up with processing the music, much more of their mind is available for the other things that we would want to process as a group, like communication or delivery to an audience, or the art of directing the group, or having something to say at the end of a rehearsal run through, for example. So yeah, it works both ways.
Because I understand that you have artistic input from everybody in the group, that it's not just conductor driven or music director ideas only, that you value everyone's input. So that should be one of the criteria.
Yeah, and I mean, we say that at the end of the day, we're going to walk on stage and sing without a conductor. Now, in order to do that successfully, everybody has to be operating in the mind space of being a conductor themselves, of being a collaborative musician, able to take a lead when they need to, able to respond, able to all that sort of stuff. So the rehearsal process is, it's my job as artistic director to basically make sure the group hits its target. So I will always know what music's coming up when. I do a lot of most, if not all, of the programming, and then I set a rehearsal schedule that means we can hit it. So I do that side of it. Once we get into the rehearsal, we operate everything from completely directed, if we're really short of time, like, hey guys, we've been given this, we need to sing it tomorrow. Please do this, 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 and this. Okay, let's go through it. That's fixed. Let's fix that, and that. Great, everyone happy, boom, done, on the road tomorrow. All the way through to, hey, we've got this new piece. Yeah, so let's have a sing and see what happens. And then it just, it's completely and utterly organic from the group. Yeah, so we literally have everything on the spectrum, and it all depends on time. So yeah, this new person, when they come in, they need to be operating at a level that they can, not necessarily hit straight away, but that we believe they have the capacity in order to grow into that position. And a part of that is, if you've been sent a piece of music, how well are you able to look at it yourself, come and stand in that position, and on the first sing through with the other people standing next to you, do a good job? Because that's actually what it really comes down to, I think, is in the group, everyone's sent the music in advance. We very, very rarely have to strictly sight read. Sometimes we're in an education environment where we just want to demonstrate a song that a choir might have sung to us back to them. We have to just read it straight off the page. But that's a slightly different thing, because you've heard the music and you can choose to do that. So it's slightly different. We rarely have to strictly sight read, but that ability to get to a very good level quickly and in your own time, so that you can, when you sing with the group, you're already at a notes-wise flawless standard. That is a sort of basic requirement, and that's a little bit different to sight reading. So
that's wonderful. I just have a question also. Is there anywhere in here where you require that the singer tell you it's okay that they leave their family for 4 or 5 weeks, or there's a commitment to time also, that, or a very demanding schedule as well, that must be part of the
it is, yeah, very much. I mean, they sing with us in the second round, and any candidates who we think, from that 30 who we've sung with, normally there might be 5, 6, or 7 who we think, actually, you know what, you could do this job. We take them into a final round, and in that final round, the crux of the final round is that they work with us to prepare a 20-minute performance, and that 20-minute performance is then delivered to a panel of guests who we invite. So that might be our managers, it might be our friends, it might be our PR, our record label, kind of stakeholders in VOCES8. So and they will build up to give a performance, and we'll just showcase all of the candidates one after each other to the collected audience. But also as part of that process, they have some social time with the group, and they also have a job interview, and then a couple of coaching sessions. They have a coaching session with me. They often have a coaching session with one or two other members of the group on specific things that will help them to achieve the best performance possible when they give it with us, that panel. And then of course they rehearse with the group. And a big part of that is talking about the lifestyle, you know, getting to know them, because we have to tour with them. And, you know, frankly, that's in itself is a really important thing to consider, because you can have the 8 best singers in the world, but if they don't get on, then you haven't got a touring product, because it would just have Armageddon pretty quickly. So yeah, all of that stuff is examined. They go through a proper HR job interview where they talk about the contract and the requirements of the job, and they get sent the job description, all that sort of fun stuff that's not the music.
You might end up with a roster of people that you can call on in the event that you need somebody last minute, or, you know, any kind of replacement, that you've got already people that you've gone through this process with. So that must be a comforting thing to know that should you need it, you can get somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do replacements. So, because all the music is memorized pretty much. When you know, so it's literally, if one of the singers is ill, then we will do everything within our power to get them on stage. If they absolutely can't go on stage, then we'll change the program and maybe wheel them on for 1 or 2 pieces. And then if they can't do that, then we'll appear with 7 people. So, you know, there's a lot of pressure on the singers to be fit. And that's something that we think about a lot as a group, especially when we're traveling. You know, it's hard enough keeping fit when you're just, you know, when the seasons are changing or something at home, but doing that, traveling a lot, is really a demanding thing. And so trying to keep fit and healthy, having a good diet, all that sort of stuff is very important.
Oh, that's wonderful. So can you bring us up to date in terms of the Live from London? I know that it's already just finished, but what else? We can hear you obviously when you tour in the States, and you've got a long list of recordings, and your YouTube channel. All of that will be in the show notes, the details for people to follow should they care to, you know, underneath the video today. So tell us what's happening now up into the future. You know, obviously there was this enormous bounty of great small English groups, and you really elbowed your way in, and then some. So it couldn't have been easy. So you have something obviously really special that's different from what other people do, and it could be the repertoire. So as well as obviously the artistic talent is a given. So yeah, so bring us up to date, and then also if you just talk about what makes you a little different from everybody else.
Yeah, sure. Well, we are now doing this online festival called Live from London. We've just finished the first season. I say finished, the live concerts have happened, but they're still available on demand. We've had some absolutely amazing groups. We've had the 16, we've had the Swingle Singers, we've had E. Fragilini, who I mentioned earlier, VOCES8, the Academy of Ancient Music. I mean, amazing concerts. And they're actually available until the 31st of October 2020. So people can find that by going to VOCES8.foundation/live from London. Such has been the success of that we're continuing into a Christmas festival, which will be really nice. Again, we've got some amazing concerts lined up. We're hosting the Tallis Scholars, we're hosting the Gabrieli Consorts are playing Bach's Fine Arts Oratorium, all 6 movements of it. Concerts from VOCES8, Take 6 are taking part. So loads and loads of great stuff. So please do come and find us. And as you say, we've been very active for a long time on social media, YouTube. We have a lovely channel with loads of lovely videos up there. So go and check it out. And you might be able to see behind me that I'm sitting in my studio, and which is at the group's base, which is right in the heart of the city of London. I think St. Paul's is about 200 yards in that direction. It's called the VOCES8 Centre. And we've now set up the VOCES8 Centre as a digital studio. So we can stream, record, all that type of stuff, which is really exciting. So we're very active, which is an important thing.
And
in
you
an
have
odd name.
classes there too, don't you have classes in the building or workshops?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. This is the home of the foundations. That all happens here. I mean, in terms of what makes us different or unique, that's a good question. I wish I had some well-oiled elevator pitch, really. I think that what we try to do as an ensemble is break down the divide between uh, the performer and the audience. And that feeling that when you see VOCES8, you're not, you are seeing, we hope, and hearing a really refined artistic product, but not presented in a way that doesn't feel that you can reach out and touch it yourself. I think it's the human element of what we do that I think makes the group successful, along with ultimately the fact we work very hard to make it as good as possible. I think those two things combined are important. And
Also, the composers that you pick, they're just wonderful. Stopford and your brother Paul,
yeah,
obviously, and just maybe you could talk a little bit about that too,
yeah, well,
the repertoire.
it's all about collaboration for us, whether that's collaborating with an audience, whether that's collaborating with students, or whether that's collaborating with other musicians. And we are lucky that we have met along the way a lot of people, and it's very nice to work with composers. And we, of course, pick composers whose music we are attracted to ourselves and who we think our audience will enjoy. So you've mentioned a couple there. Oli Yalo is another one. Eric Whittaker, we have a wonderful association singing Eric's music, Nola's music. So loads of people out there. And our arranger, Jim Clements, has been writing for us for 10, 15 years, and people love his stuff. So a bit like when you're cooking a dinner party for your friends, you think, well, what is it that we have the capability to cook and that we think they will really like? And of course, that's sticking a menu together is a really fun thing to do. And that's basically our job. And then you invite people into your concert and have a convivial time with them. And, what's not to like? It's important. And, I always also say that a great chef relies on fantastic raw ingredients. And I'm very lucky that I have 7 amazing colleagues, and that's a big part of it also, I think, is that
That's true, but it seems that the music that you're doing is approachable by anyone who wants to go purchase it and then give it to their own choirs. It's not so terribly difficult that, the really good college choir or volunteer choir can sing it too. So it's exciting because you can listen to it and we could do that. Let's put that on.
it's all about being relatable, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's not to say we don't sing some difficult music from time to time. We want to champion composers who are writing avant-garde styles of music or difficult pieces from the past. But it's that idea of virtuosity. What makes something really, really good and virtuosic? Well, sometimes it's just, I think, doing the simple things well is often the hardest thing to do. We could sing Bach's Sing It, Man, it's got 1,000,000 notes a minute, but actually I think singing Stopford's Luli Lula Lule, which has got 10 notes a minute, is actually in many ways harder. But when you achieve it, there's a level of purity there, which people really, really enjoy. And I think if there's one thing that people associate with VOCES8, it's that kind of blended purity. And that is the hardest thing. I can promise you, it's the thing we practice the most. It's the hardest thing to do. But it touches the human soul in a way that's really direct. And I think that's a massive part of the success.
Right. Well, we can go on for hours talking about this. I'd love to find out what your ideas on vibrato and if you ask vibrato and tone color and all that, but it's really can go on. But
vibrato is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's not black and white. That's the first thing I'd say. And in VOCES8, we don't treat it as such. We simply treat vibrato as a color. I think it's a very difficult topic in college because students in choir are there studying for solo singing as well. So you get a little bit of a slight collision. You can get a slight collision there. And then once we get into amateur singers of a more senior age, they're singing in choir, but vibrato in the voice then is a very, very natural thing. And so controlling it's very difficult. I think it's important for us to recognize that the voice, everybody's voice is different. That's the first thing to say. So nobody can say you should or shouldn't sing without vibrato because everyone's voice is different. But most people's voices, certainly the older we get, want to vibrate. They want to vibrate because singing requires a certain amount of tension in the muscles. And the way the muscles deal with that is that they vibrate a bit, and that causes vibrato. So to not allow the muscles to do that consistently is ultimately a bad thing to do. For example, if you were to sit like this all day, how are you going to feel at the end of the day? You're going to feel very stiff, and you're going to get to a point where your muscles give up. So, you know, vibrato is our way of our muscles being able to do singing and also not cause them any harm. So the way we look at it in VOCES8 is that, of course, the aesthetic of choral singing so much of the time requires us to sing with little or no vibrato. So we just understand that using vibrato in that instance is a color. We're always looking for colors. So bringing a bit of vibrato into the sound warms the sound. So that's what we will use it for. If we sing for extended periods without vibrato, we're creating tension in the voice, and we just simply have to remove it. So we have warm down exercises, for example. So we'll create a lot of tension in the tongue root. So at the end, we do stupid things like just to loosen the voice up. And that's a way of managing it. For my own part, I'm not as young as I used to be. As a countertenor, there's a lot of tension on my voice. If I do 3 concerts in a row, 3 nights in a row, then I get to the point where I almost need a day off if my voice is going to function properly, purely because I've built up so much tension. And with all the will in the world, I can't get rid of enough of it. 3 nights is then too much. So yeah, we will use it like that. And the other thing then is looking for the music where you want the vibrato. You don't want it. You don't go out there specifically to sing with it, but you're after everybody's individual voice color. And when we sing polyphony, for example, William Byrd Sing Joyfully, everybody has their own part. And we want to hear everyone's individual voice and color. And so if you want to use vibrato, I mean, within reason, you know, go for it. And if someone thinks you're wobbling around too much and it's sticking out, then they'll say so, at which point you can rein it in a bit. But so it's trying to find that good balance. And it's so difficult in choir because it's really easy to just to put your singers in a box. But actually, one of the things that makes a concert so interesting is hearing individual vocal colors. So in VOCES8, we'll try to showcase all the individual voices, but we'll also showcase the group sound. And that's how you keep an audience interested for 90 minutes. If we just went out and went, ooh, for 90 minutes, people would be bored. So finding those different styles.
Yes, the concept of a cool down. I consider myself having been in this business a long time, and this is the first I've heard of that. That's just such a fascinating concept. Maybe you could take us forward now to your foundation, because to be so young and already leaving a legacy in terms of educational workshops and your book and all is such an advantage to all of us in the choral field to have these manuals, as you can put it, to follow, and it's a real gift. So can you talk about that foundation and how it affects music education, choral education?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, you know, my brother and I are quite, don't like to bestow this upon ourselves, but I've learned of myself, and actually I've learned a lot of myself during the period of lockdown with the pandemic, is that we're quite just socially conscious people. Both our parents were in public service, you know, in the area of helping other people, and I think we've just grown up in that way. And so we have a very strong feeling that whatever we do, we want to serve our community. And it's really lovely if we get to swan off around the world and sing some concerts. That's really nice and very nourishing and enriching for us. But at the end of the day, what can we give back? And for us, it was all about trying to get every child the opportunity to experience what it is to sing in a choir and to use their own voice. And a big problem that we have in the UK is that music is not an essential part of the curriculum, or if it is, there's nobody to teach it. So the first person who gets cut in a budget cut is the music teacher, and then the maths or English or science teacher is asked to run some sort of music class. So we went about working with the Institute of Education here in London, who published a paper where they went into a school for a year with a group of 9, 10 and 11-year-olds, and every day they gave a select group of pupils specific musical activities to do across an entire academic year. And then they monitored how those students compared to the students who weren't being offered those opportunities. And of course, the results were obvious. There was a big increase across all of their cross-curricular studies. So numeracy, linguistics, and a really interesting thing that they noted was the difference in those students' ability in social situations. So their ability to express themselves, their ability to demonstrate who they were in the playground, for example, to hold conversations, to form teams, all that sort of stuff. Now, this was all written in a paper, but what the paper didn't do was have a specific curriculum. So we went about taking the ideas of the paper and working with the Institute in order to create a curriculum that crucially could be used by someone who wasn't a music teacher. So we created the VOCES8 method. And of course, it can be taught by a music teacher, but it's not written in a way that requires you to understand musical notation. It's pattern-based. It's then taught by diagrams, and it uses influences from world music. And the idea is that you could work in a class of 2 students all the way up to thousands if you wanted, and create music within 10 minutes of opening the front cover. And then across a period of time, whether that be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 6 months, whatever it is, whatever time you have available, you can then progress the students through a whole series. It's got 32 chapters of music making devices, and then they are effectively teaching patterns and devices that you can then use to create improvisatory music classes. And yeah, the idea with that, it's called the VOCES8 method. It's actually written by my brother Paul. We deliver it all the time, is that it gets people making music, people of all ages, all experiences. You can have somebody who didn't even know they could do music making some sort of music within 10 minutes of opening the cover. So that's our answer. And then of course we go around wherever we go, doing masterclasses, workshops, trying to engage. Big thing that we're doing now, that we've had the lockdown, is we have a digital academy that we've just launched. All these choirs who can't get in to the rehearsal room for whatever reason, we're creating a curriculum for them so that they can get out and sing and make music, and all that sort of stuff. So a lot going on. VOCES8.foundation. I mean, but it's all really based around this fact that we want people to experience the joy of singing in a choir. That's what it's really about, because I think if everybody found their voice through music, wouldn't the world be a better place? But how many of us actually are genuinely afforded the opportunity to do that? Not enough in our view. So
that's wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate all of your comments and being here today. That's a wonderful way to end the session this afternoon, because it's so inspiring, and it helps us find a way forward, because we face all the same problems with music education being cut and having to teach across disciplines that are not necessarily our own. And it sounds to me like that science teacher is going to become a better musician, having gone through your book too, as well. The teachers benefit who are not musicians. So I would like to thank you so much for giving so much of your time today, and we can't wait to see you again on tour in the United States.
Do come and join us online, because we'd love to, that is a real community, and I think during any difficult time we will need to stick together, so we'd love to see you. And thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. If you like this video, just click the button below to subscribe, and thanks for watching.